Okay,
Did anybody finish the book?
I did.
Okay, okay. Because I was gonna say, I'm like, we said 225, but it was like right there. I mean,
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
all right. Well, I guess I'll start really quick. I took a couple like notes per chapter. I'm gonna start by saying that my favorite chapter was nine, the worthy rival one, just because I guess I've always thought of it. They kept using the example of like sports, right? Like when there's a winner and there's a loser because there's an end goal. We have to get this, that, or the third. But then it went into a story about tennis, right? Which in my mind I was like, oh, this is like the perfect combo, rival versus like being a rival versus being a competitor. Because in tennis, obviously, it's a sport. There's an end game, but if you have the right mentality, it's a sport that will sharpen you, like it'll make you better. And basically what I put here was rivals versus competitors. Who sharpens you? The rival mentality comes from knowing you only win when you grow personally, no matter what it is. Like in the book particularly, they were saying that one of the tennis players used to play a lot on the baseline, and that was like her comfort zone. And then her rival played very aggressive, and it forced her to get out of that baseline. And now she is more skilled, at her playing because her competitor, her rival, forced her to get out of that comfort zone. I also love the example that he gave, like, hey, I went on stage, and he was always my competitor. I don't, whatever. He sold more books than me, and da da da. But we went on stage together, and they're supposed to introduce each other, which is. I always think it's so funny when they do that to speakers, like, hey, we'll just introduce each other or whatever. But okay, but what I loved about it is that he was like, I looked at them, I looked at the crowd, I looked at the speaker, and then I was like, yeah, you intimidate me. And he was just raw, like, you intimidate me because you making me look at all the things in myself that I consider weak. And then he was able to find out, like, hey, guess what? You intimidate me too, you know? Um, so I did really like that, the rawness and the realness, because then they were able to come out of that mentality, like, this guy is not against me. If anything, if we work together, now that we told each other, we can, sharpen each other. Sharpen iron sharpens iron. um I did love the story, and I'm just gonna go back a little bit. That was chapter 9. That was my favorite one. Earlier when they were talking about the will and resources, that she said she met Noah at a Four Seasons in Vegas, right? And he was like, oh, I love my job. And she said how important that was, because love versus like is completely different. Like is rational, and love has emotion. He has an emotional tie to his job. And it was basically super simple. She's like, why do you love your job? And he's like, because my managers ask me, like, they walk around making sure I'm okay. Do you need anything? Are you good? Da, da, da. Versus his other hotel job where the managers were walking around looking for people doing bad stuff. And he was like, in my other job, I'm just like looking down, not doing the most, because I know they're basically hunting people for whatever bad they're doing. Versus this job, I feel like myself. And then the little pointer that I put there, in the list of important things to leaders, people should be the first, because order matters. And they even gave an example, like, oh, when you ask leaders, they say the budget, this, and they always say people because they claim people are important, but people are always at the bottom of the list, and it should be at the top. um the other one was the Wells Fargo example that they gave with the ethical fading. Um, I don't think I think they said it was like 53 or 100 or 1,000, I don't remember. I think it was 5,300 employees. I don't think they were all like inherently bad people to begin with. They just became bad, I guess, because of the pressure of their job. Creating the accounts and taking people's money and all that stuff, because supposedly because of the quotas and the pressures and all that stuff. It made me think of someone that I used to hang out with. They were giving, for whatever reason, I'm not gonna get into it, but for whatever reason, they were giving like this huge amount of money to take care of. Like, hey, I need you to transport this money from here to here. And then, okay, I got it. And I was on the ride along, and then they were like, randomly, right, unmerited or anything, just super randomly, was like, I would never even think of stealing that money, right? Or stealing some of that money or whatever, because in that example, it was literally like, when you steal a little bit from the rich, it goes seemingly unknown or whatever, but you're still stealing from a friend or a boss or whatever. And then I was like, why, what made you even think that? Like, if you really don't think about stealing the money, you don't think about stealing the money. But the fact that you said that lets me know that you definitely thought about stealing something, you know? So I literally, when I read that, I was like, oh, that's so funny because I remember thinking that back then, like, why did you even, why did that thought of you saying that cross your mind? Because what it made me think was that you're trying to convince yourself, like, you had the thought and then you said it out loud, like, to try to convince yourself, like, I would never steal that money, you know? But I don't know what happened. We just dropped it off and I went on my merry way home. Um, and then the last thing I wanted to kind of say was the courage to lead. And it was just like a silly little, not even silly, right? But it was just an example for CVS, like how they stopped selling cigarettes, right? Nobody asked them to, nobody forced them to. They just said, like, you know what, we're not going to sell them anymore. And then it went downhill a little bit, but then it came up for them because people were like, oh, like respect, like, you know, now they're now their stakes are higher, or their shareholders, whatever that's saying that they were getting better at now. And it reminded me kind of like of Spirit, because Spirit like shut down a little bit ago, right? And the word on TikTok is that supposedly the government wanted to buy it out to use the planes for this, that, and the third, and Spirit was like, "Now we're good on that," and then decided to just shut down instead of like getting bailed out, right? I don't know because I'm not into a lot of that stuff, but people on TikTok, the comments, the videos that people are making about it are like, "Oh, respect, respect, respect." So even though Spirit is shut down, that camaraderie around Spirit and like, "Oh, we love Spirit, we stand for Spirit," or whatever, it became higher because of supposedly them standing their ground and the courage to lead. So it reminded me of that when I read that part of the book. And I think that's it. That's all my notes that I have. Oh, I don't know. I think she said you, Ron.
All right. You know, fabulous book. Um, it's just really an off the hook book for me. It's up there with Stevie Bartlett's book. So it's definitely now on the reread list when I can find the time to reread it. But at least it's made the list. I'm not going to go through all the other chapters, but I'm just going to start with chapter 11 and end with chapter 11. It reminded me, this book, so much of being in graduate school, um, getting my business degree back in 1896, when you had paper case studies. You had Southwest Airlines, you had Benihana restaurants, you had Taco Bell, PepsiCo, all of, things that were grinding up through the late 70s into the 80s, into the early 90s. You had the internet that was just exploding. We were in the Clinton administration, we had the NAFTA. Those were all big business type of um, those were issues, from a global economic standpoint, a domestic standpoint. And it's just what I liked really about this. And I don't like talking about what I like about a book because it's so subjective. Everybody has their opinion. And I'm not that deluded with my opinion, but it it comes to the point where the case studies that he uses or the examples are so relevant that you can it has a heartbeat to it. They're not just these, and getting back to my other example of these, case studies that you got handed out to you that you had to read on the tarmac because your flight was delayed, and you're sitting in Chicago while they're de-icing the plane and you had an extra 2 hours to read, before you got back to your destination city or your arrival city. So chapter 11 for me kind of cracked me. It made me laugh. Jim Cramer, the CNBC equities guy, the whole stock market, I mean, he, without the risk of politics, the only thing he's really done for me is basically said you got to buy Apple 20 plus years ago when it was $25 a share, and they did. So, the story's been wonderful ever since. But the CVS story and how they went about it reminded me a lot of the Tylenol story, where the Tylenol was laced and people died, and it was the whole big dilemma of what Tylenol had to do, and I kept thinking back to that case study um, in my head, and I just kept saying, so how do I drive this down into my business? I have three vertical revenue businesses that I'm currently involved in. LifeWave, I have another practice, and I've got another practice. And I'm saying to myself, okay, you're doing well. You have the infinite game mentality. You're not relying on one income. You have multiple streams of income that you are building and that you are scaling. And it takes time, it takes effort. I guess I could be sitting on the beach in Maui several weeks out of the year, just vacationing and living life from my laptop computer. But that's not what I desire. That's not my internal infinite game. My internal infinite game is to do better. It's to do well. It's to continue well, both at an internal and an external and a relational, both vertically and horizontally. Sorry for the hand motion there. I don't want to make you dizzy. Made me dizzy. And so I just felt that the way he recapped this in chapter 11 and brought it all home, the courage to keep, to actually not block, but have it foremost in your mind regarding the finite game, to continue to drive down into your business with the people that you're in relationship with, whether they are in your downline, whether they're in your upline, or the diagonals, people that you communicate with. Those are really, really important infinite, I call them infinite loops, that you continue to, you keep to, have viable and vibrant and warm and relationship oriented. In regards to your comment, Lola, regarding Wells Fargo, being here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Wells Fargo and Bank of America having, at that one point, having had their headquarters in the financial district in San Francisco, and having been San Francisco companies, and the hallmark of San Francisco, California, the West Coast, during those years, I've had the opportunity to sit with Wells chairman and CEO that was fired. He had me up for lunch. We didn't talk about this specifically, but this, what you were talking about, was brewing under the surface. Nobody knew about it. If you're an old Bank of America employee, you would think that everybody at Wells Fargo was ruthless. I'm just teasing, but it's just that, it's sort of how we sort of came up in the financial industry, and which sides that you took sides on. But I'll tell you some other time, the great stories about the whole 2008 meltdown regarding the infinite loop and the finite loop, when the Fed or the Treasury under the Bush administration towards the beginning of the Obama administration was handing out tens of billions of dollars to the banks here in the US, and Wells Fargo was one of those money center banks. So mark that in your, I'll tell you the story from the inside of how that went down with the big money center banks and what happened and all of that. But from the infinite loop, it seems so simple. As I kind of hand the mic back to you, Lola, it seems simple that the infinite game is so easy, but it's not. And it's something, it's really about a level of exercise that it's not about that, oh, I worked out today and I lifted 50 pounds and I'm going to try for 55 pounds tomorrow and doing 3 sets of, whatever. But it's the overall span. It's how the span of time marks it well or doesn't mark it well. You can't say I went to the gym yesterday, but I haven't gone, I don't plan on going for the next 3 weeks and expect that level of growth to happen and just say in your head, well, it'll be fine and I'll pick up where I left off. Well, life doesn't exactly work that way. Your body doesn't respond. Relationships, your market presence doesn't respond that way. It's a daily exercise. So again, it's on the reread list, and I look forward to getting through it along with Bartlett's book. So excellent book.
Miss Arlene, would you like to go or would you like me to go? Okay. I think she's saying I'll go. Okay. So when I came to book club after that first week, I was like, oh my God, I think we're gonna get here and everyone's gonna say, okay, you know what, we're not even gonna finish this book. Like it's just not, it wasn't resonating with me. I didn't enjoy it, and it just wasn't starting out really good for me. But I hung in there, and I can't believe actually how much it turned around and how much I enjoyed this book. I know. Sometimes it can be where you're at, or you just look at things a little bit differently. Um, all of the examples that were given are really eye-opening, and I'm sure if companies had the foresight to see things, it would be so much easier and interesting to see like the decisions that they're making now, and how they impact things. And sometimes they of course make decisions that are, as we all do, you make decisions based on what you know when you have at this moment in time, because you can't predict the future. They talked about a company like Sears, and how Sears had been around, of course, for many years. And then what happens is that things change, the internet, online shopping, and how they were so reluctant to make these kind of changes. But in the end, that was, what partially led to their demise. And it's just so interesting to see how, yeah, of course, with foresight, how things have come about, and decisions are made. It really does take a strong leader, though, in certain times, to be able to make some of the decisions that these companies make, because all we hear about is the bottom line. Are you making money? Like, are we staying above water? All those kinds of things. So I actually look and admire companies that have been able to say, no, no, this is what we're going to do because it's part of our cause. It's what's best. And this is the road that we're going to stay on. And I never really kind of looked at companies like that before, but it's kind of opened my eyes to thinking a little bit more about, yeah, some of the decisions that organizations have to make, and they do make, in order for the greater good. And so I thought that was really interesting. I'm gonna take that little nugget of wisdom that I figured out with me as I go forward. I have some experience. I worked for the bank in the like 90s and late 90s and early 2000s. And when I worked for the bank, here in Canada, we have 6 main banks, and then we have credit unions. So we have a different banking system altogether than the US. But as I understand, and they tell us about the bank, there was a time when the bank was there to serve, and people would come and they would, get their mortgages, their loans, and the bank was there to serve them. And then, of course, that changed because it was all about who the shareholder at the end of the day. Are you making money? And the push, push, push. And I remember working with a fellow that had been with the bank for like 40 years, and he was literally on his way out. I was hired to replace him, and he was just spending kind of those couple weeks with me as we were transitioning. And he talked about the old days of the bank, how it was, the bank was so respected, and people would come to the bank, and the bank was there to serve. And then we saw the change and the push, the push, the push, the push, the push, and that was all it was about. Um, is just to get more accounts, to get more. And the bank, of course, is still going today, and it's still very profitable, and it's still doing well. But it really left me with a different kind of feeling looking back at my days at the bank, and just how, yeah, it wasn't about anything but selling, and that's all that mattered. Um, I'm not saying it went into ethical practices that were questionable. That wasn't really the case. But it was all about the sale, and just how things have changed. Um, I look at it also as, yeah, there's some really hard decisions, and insolvencies. It's going to be the same in the U.S. Insolvencies here in Canada are the highest they've ever been, and so companies of all different sorts of sizes have some really tough decisions to make. And when your bottom line is in question, or if you're in a position where you don't know if you're going to be able to make it through, I'm sure there's a lot of hard decisions out there to be made. So I do find that this book has now opened my thinking, looking at myself and how I even play the infinite game. Um, One thing I've always tried to do is, whether it's in business or personal, is to lead with integrity. And I always believe that whatever I do whether even if it's in my personal life, it still encompasses who I am. And so, as far as the infinite game, I think that's one thing I've always tried to do is to lead my life with integrity. So I can say I'm a little bit surprised, but yeah, this book really turned me around, and I really came to enjoy it.
I love
Yeah,
that
baby.
you literally changed from the
Really, and
finance to the
I'm as shocked as anyone, because I thought that first week coming in, I'm like, okay, I think everyone's gonna be like me. We're gonna say, oh my god, this book is bad. Like, let's just can it. We'll move on. And when everyone was like glowing, and I'm like, okay, I just can't share that. But
You're like, is it
anyways,
me?
yeah,
Am I the drama?
yeah. Am I the odd one out? And I was, but that's okay. I came to enjoy it, and I finished the book. So
That's awesome.
Love that, Rhonda.
yeah.
You were so bitter before. Okay.
Oh,
No, you
I
know
just
what's
have
so
my
great about you?
opinion.
Like, what's so great about you is that you that's what you believe, and it's like it didn't work for you at the time, right? But it's kind of neat how you can tell your energy's different too. Actually, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I totally.
Yeah. Saying something, Ron? You're muted. We didn't hear
I
you.
know. I know. I got too much hand-eye coordination going on here. Um, the coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet. I haven't been feeling well the last day or so. But anyway, I'm okay. Better. I'm a little better today. Um, Rhonda, question I wanted to ask you, if we may,
Please.
Madam Moderator, is that so? What swung you? What swung you? I mean, I listened to you in the first, our first session, and I'm like, okay. I mean, there's no judgment. I'm just listening as to what it was that wasn't sparking you. But what now, as compared to in the beginning, what maybe one or two little data points um, caused you to say to yourself, wow, there is some good, wholesome nutrition in here that I can relate to and I can actually implement into my life. You saw the light, so to speak.
Yeah. Um, I wish I had a clear answer for you, but I think it was maybe just me being a little bit more open-minded. Um, I've always been in sports, and I guess when I look at sports, and the finite game of, yes, did you win or lose, and you move on. So I think I just had to kind of expand my brain a little bit to understand that it wasn't about that win. It was about like the long game, as we talk about. Um, and I can't actually say, Ron, that I know what actually sparked it. But yeah, the first week I was like, oh yeah, I think we're all just going to be like, no, this book is no, we're just going to move on, people. So um, I think it was me just trying to be a little bit more open because everybody else was so positive, and not that it had to sway me because I'm fine with the initial comments that I made, but just trying to be more open and understanding what the infinite game, excuse me, means. And it can be so tough. It can be so tough to do that.
Was there
So,
a specific story that he used, or an example, a case study?
um, you know, I think the one about with basically with Apple,
Hmm.
that was a really interesting one because at first, here's the new player coming along and they didn't really blink. Like all of a sudden they just went, oh, okay, so this is what you do and this is what we're going to do. And that was really shocking to think that that's
Yeah,
how they handled that.
yeah,
They talked about a company called BlackBerry, which was a Canadian company.
yeah.
And yes, at the time, the BlackBerry was very popular.
My
And just,
BlackBerry.
Yeah,
okay,
Rim
okay.
Technologies.
I never
Yeah,
had one, yeah. But like in 4 years, like they went out of they had to declare bankruptcy. And it's kind of astounding in such a small amount of time how the decisions they made impacted things. And there was actually a TV series here about the BlackBerry, and I remember watching it and being really excited to watch it because yeah, they were such a big, bold Canadian company, and then how did they go so wrong? And it's big decisions, but yet they seem kind of like small decisions that are sometimes made. So I think the one with Apple, I really thought, wow, like to have the foresight that those people did and to be able to stand by their convictions. Wow. So I think that was one that really resonated with me.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Hello, 10
Harley.
people of the North.
Well, hello. We're
Hello.
back from the honeymoon in the Bahamas. It was a tremendous time, and that was
Woo.
so. I was going to tell Lola this, and so to let you guys in on just kind of where this is going. On our way over, we stopped in Miami on the way down and on the way back on our hop over to, and I text Lola and I was like, "What is this airport? The amount of butt cheeks I've seen hanging out of shorts. This is not a pool. This is not a beach. Like this is ridiculous. Like it's Miami. Like it's what it is. It's just a totally different vibe." So, and I've got to pull up this picture.
Oh my gosh.
So the morning we are leaving, I asked Crystal because we're flying into Miami again. I said, "What outfit do you have on for the Miami airport to accentuate the butt cheeks?" And I literally look out the room. She's got the most exact opposite, this full romper thing. Can't kind of see like it's like that's the Miami airport outfit. Got it. The exact opposite of butt cheeks in Miami. Okay, here we
You
go.
have to separate yourself. Good
I know.
call,
I said I'm
Crystal.
not going to fit in. It's like,
No, that was-
it's fine. I don't need to.
It was awesome. It was great.
And like
No,
I said, I apologize on behalf of all the Miamians.
no need. It was hilarious. So
And we definitely sat at Margaritaville sightseeing.
yes, on our layover, that was good comedy. So
Hilarious.
I don't know, coming like a bull like a China shop there, not at all. I will just to clarify, because I know last week there wasn't the book club, and then is this the complete book or is this just through 150? What was
So last time we had said through 225, but everybody here
Within the
basically
book.
said they finished the book. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
So we still got a couple chapters left, but where I will put it left on this one here is just I have absolutely loved this one. It has caused a ton of reflection from an owner's perspective. Like this book makes me want to be a better person. Like there's a lot of other ones that are like good and just good tip, but like just as I'm reading through some of the examples and the ways that different leaders in business and situations have handled and uplifting. And just literally yesterday with one of my team members when it was talking about how do you are you constantly just focusing on goals, and what does that do? Like we got to get the growth. We got like, is that the focus? And to an extent, yes, that's part of it. But are you actually focusing on the people? And the example that they gave there, both I think it was with Starbucks and Apple, were a couple of the companies that they referenced where it ends up being revenue neutral. Like, are you putting money into your people? Are you giving, like at Apple, whether you're a retail employee or a corporate employee, you still get stock options, you still get full medical, you still get all these other things. And what they're finding is that, yes, you're keeping that human capital in your organization and they're ultimately happier. And the one when they were talking about, I think in the 2008 crisis, it was Cargo Mates or Cargo Ship, whatever the store, container company, container store. When they were talking about how they could have absolutely come in and said, we're not reimbursing travel, we're not doing this, everyone's taking pay freezes. Like if they came down from that top-down approach, it would have been received entirely different versus, hey, we're all in this together. And people started volunteering, like, hey, I'm not going to submit these expense reports. I'm going to stay with friends or family instead of a hotel when I'm traveling for business. I'm going to do these things to help save the company money. We're getting like how it organically, and it just became a groundswell of support to let's keep this company going from an employee perspective versus like, yeah, I'll just go do something else. Like I just, it just how you can do life in business the correct way. I think this is a fantastic model for that. And so I'd say just from a higher overall takeaway level of I thoroughly enjoy Simon Sinek and his other books, and just anytime I see one of his reels pop up, I watch the whole thing or watch some of his different tech. Like he's amazing. I think he's got a very good grasp. He can articulate things so well, and towards where I finished it, where I'm not totally done yet, but where we finished the last thing when he was talking about worthy rivals and how so many people are looking at somebody else competition more or less with a scarcity mindset. Like if that person's selling means I can. And like you said, with that competitive author, and it wasn't until they shared the stage together and they ultimately recognize that the strengths and weaknesses in one another. Yeah. And people buy more than one book, and how he even gives him a plug in the book and how that other author ended up helping proofread this book. Like it was just recognizing that, okay, what are, like talked about with Apple and IBM, or it just some of his references there. It's okay to have and look at them as a worthy rival. What can you gain from them winning? And it doesn't have to be, how can I cut them down? How can I cut them out? Like you talk about with Ford. Ford could have easily gone during that financial crisis and said, don't give GM and Chrysler these bailouts because I'm going to take it out. No, but he was like, no, give it to them because we know that having healthy competition, a worthy rival here, still US based manufacturers, because what was the trickle down effect of that? Suppliers that Ford needed would be impacted by these, like how they could just see the big picture. And with everybody winning, everybody's winning. And it doesn't need to be, I'm winning, you're losing. We can all win together. So the overall, I really have enjoyed this one. Like I said, just with the honeymoon, there wasn't the daily reading that was taken. There was a lot more sunshine, swimming with sharks, swimming with pigs, swimming with stingrays, like that kind of stuff. So it was an awesome time. So a little less reading, so that's why I didn't finish it. But yes, I have loved this one.
Yeah. I really don't have much to add because Chris is way ahead of me in the book, and so I'm pretty much where we left off 2 weeks ago. But I did listen to the chapter that he was listening to on the worthy rivals, and same thoughts there. Where, having that worthy rival just, I think, levels us all up, right? Like when whether it's your business or in your personal life. Without that, you're just doing things for yourself. And it kind of talked about how that gets into the ego of things, and that will quickly get in your way when it comes to success or hitting your goals. But having that worthy rival really, I think, keeps us all a little level-headed of like, okay, well, this person's really good at this, so I either need to level that up or let me focus on this over here. And especially coming from a somewhat of a smaller town here in Fairbanks, you see that a lot when people open new business. They're like, oh, well, so and so already does that. You shouldn't be doing that. It's too small of a town for X, Y, and Z. And the reality is it's not, because you can really say, great, they may do this, but here's kind of what they're really good at, but I'm really good at this over here, and how that can either continue to allow you to level up specifically what you're doing in that industry or that specific niche. But yeah, I mean, great book. I need to go back and read quite a bit and actually finish the book. But there's definitely been some key takeaways that I think are great to implement not only in your own life, but see how these sort of things really, like, kind of breaking down, where am I playing finite, where am I playing on the other scale. So
Infinite.
Thank you. Also, not enough coffee this morning.
You're coming off your honeymoon. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank
Cute, by the way. Oh my gosh, you're so tanned and bronzed swimming with the pig.
You are super tan.
Swimming with the pig.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Lots
made a
of-
bunch of notes. I made a bunch of notes. So, I'm kind of like you, Chris, where if, like a, I don't know, when I read business and this, and so it all starts with the just cause part. So it's like we all kind of know it. Whatever it is, the quote was like, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress, and then working hard for something we love is called passion. Like that really hit me. So in life, like moving through life, and it made me reflect on all the different workplaces I've been and schools I've been and how I've navigated it. Like when you and making the choice to be with people that are more in alignment. So that was kind of an interesting quote. Let me see. Trusting teams. So this was kind of obvious. Like a team is not a group of people who work together, like an actual team. A team is a group of people who trust each other. And that made me reflect on like my actual teams that I'm with and my actual family and my parents and all that kind of stuff. My brain just goes wackadoodle on that kind of the trust issue. Clearly an issue. And then the other one is ethical fading. That was a big one too that you went through, Lola. And I find that obviously I come from the hair industry, and it really has had a lot of ethical fading, let's just say, and selling out companies and this and that. So that's been really interesting. And so if anything, it further validates the direct sale industry for me, because I'm with two companies, and they have a really, because there's so much personal development, they have this way of adapting and pivoting. And so it's been, if anything, it's just more solidifying my decisions to be in alignment with these companies. The worthy rival thing is the same thing. Like competitors, like you guys were talking about, Chris, like we can inspire growth rather than have that insecurity. Like it always makes me liken to like every year in Vancouver, for example, they release about 10,000 new graduates in hair school, and then you wonder where are all these hairdressers going, right? And because when you're working in high end hairdressing, there's people that are more competitive and they're catty and not the nicest people, but really if you know that we all have our strength, there's so many people. And I also liken to the population, like the US is what, 350 million, and Canada's got 35 million. There's just no physical way we could service all these people. So like just work together, right? We can do this. And then let me see. Well, I talked about the existential flexibility, and that's like I don't know, just this book kind of was like philosophical to me more than like, although Ron, you talk a lot of business talk, like the terminology you use, it's very philosophical for me in just being able to adapt in whatever category, whether it's work, family, relationships. Let me see. Finite versus infinite mindset. The goal is not to win, the goal is to keep playing. And that one, again, it made me reflect on like family. Like I come from narcissistic abuse. So this book actually made me move to a different phase of I'm no contact with my male parent father. And it actually made me go no contact with my female parent this week. So it's been, because it's, if you have a mindset where you always think finite, which is what my parents do, it's a vicious cycle. And so you perpetuate it by feeding into that finite machine. So I've actually gone in the infinite side, and to block it, to block that so I can live infinitely more true to myself is what I've done. So that's been huge. Still processing. Let me see. So culture and belonging. So this is what I feel with the book club is huge for me. Like when we feel safe among our own people, the natural reaction is trust and cooperation. So because I'm AUDHD and it's very reactive, I'm really grateful for this book club because we just share, right? And it's like it made me reflect on the environments I put myself in, and so this is a really special environment. So I'm grateful for all of you. And then the last part was like it didn't really feel like a business book, although Ron, you kind of made it sort of businessy. Like your terminology is very, it's like I respect it. I just don't understand the words you're saying. A lot of times it's like it's very businessy though, but it's amazing. It's like a whole new world for me because I'm a college dropout. So for the legacy part, like an infinite mindset is the will to continue the game. So it's for me, it's really been like reflection on legacy and humanity and the humanity of our actual existence. So like family and myself, and then just the life path. So yeah. I guess that's for me how I took away the book is like every decision I make in life, it's kind of like think more abundant, think infinite game, you know? Does that make sense what I'm rambling? That's my takeaway. It's been a hot mess, but yeah. I love this book too. And it's like you, Ron, like it's on the reread list for sure. Because it's just there's so much information that you're just like, holy crap! It's just bombs dropping everywhere, in terms of little epiphanies and things like that. So I love this book too.
And you guys,
That's my
mentioned
take.
Crystal and Chris, but Rhonda, she came to the light side on week 1 when she wasn't really feeling the book. She said she ended up liking it too. That's awesome. I mean, I guess if we all pretty much finish, I don't know what you guys want to do. We move on to the next one, or maybe what we can do, because Jay jumped in here for a little bit. He wanted to say hi. I know you guys saw him. He was out and about. I don't know if he's going to have takeaways next week, but maybe next week we can do is like whoever missed it can say whatever they have to say about the book, because obviously it was like two or 3 weeks that we didn't really talk about it. And then the rest of us can kind of cover the first 75 pages of the new book.
Can you
Yeah.
say what the new book is?
Yes. So the new one, I have them listed here. I'm actually going to update the Facebook page in a second. The next one is The Influential Mind.
That's right.
And that one. And the one right after that is The Courage to be Disliked. So that's the next two. Exactly. Thank you, Chris. Yes. And then I'll post those two, like with the links and everything, on Facebook, and then I'll change the cover and everything. That way next week we know we're gonna talk about the first 75 pages.
So technically next week it's The Influential Mind.
Yes.
Got it.
And that's it. Thank you guys for joining. Thanks, Crystal and Chris, for making it, even if it was just right now.
Yeah,
No,
congrats on your honeymoon. When did you guys get married?
A year ago. So it was
Year
the
ago.
first anniversary / honeymoon. So that's what
Love
it was.
it.
A year ago.
Good
I
for
know.
you. Okay.
May 2nd. It was an easy one. 5225. So
Ah,
What?
Yeah.
I feel like that was literally like yesterday.
I know.
Yeah.
It was a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, she wanted an anniversary trip and then a honeymoon. And it's like, we've been traveling so much anyways. So let's just make this an extra long. So anyway, yeah, we had a wonderful time
Nice.
celebrating.
I
And
like the way she thinks.
And where did you go?
we stayed at Atlantis there in the Bahamas
Oh.
and loved it. Like, we can't
Yeah.
wait to go back. And like, as somebody who, she used to live in Hawaii, and I was like, I mean, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we both said, like, I'd rather come back here than go to Hawaii, which Hawaii is an easy shot for us. That's 5 hours from Alaska. It was 19 hours to get over there, but I'd rather go to that
Yeah.
place with that water and those pigs. Like, no,
Oh wow. But
No
you guys have
problem,
been to
Mike.
Hawaii already?
many times.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, then yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was so nice. The food was,
It was
there wasn't a
amazing.
meal where I was like, oh my God, but we didn't have a single bad one. Like, everything was really good. There was so much to do. Like,
Mhm.
I'm just a big kid, so the water park was amazing. Like, I loved that. Like, the ocean was, it is the nicest ocean I've ever been in. Like, you could actually, super clear, super warm, flat. Like, it
Mhm.
wasn't, you're not getting beat up by waves. Like, even in Hawaii, you get into the water there and you get in and you're just kind of like, okay, like, it's just a little bit like, and then you kind of ease into it. Like, no, here it was just like bath. All right, let's go. Like, it
Yeah.
just so much to see and do. And
nice.
besides, we have to go back. We left a little bit of money in the casino, so it's like we have to go back and get that back. So like,
You would do well in Thailand if you ever thought of going to Thailand.
she's been a couple times. She loves it.
I love Thailand.
Yeah, me too. Anyway,
There you go.
Have a
That's
great
awesome.
week,
Glad you guys had a
everybody.
good time.
Likewise. See you
Bye,
next week.
guys.
Bye, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.